The Conservative Party has gathered in Manchester for its annual conference, but the mood is flat, even brittle. The main hall is literally curtained off, the party having shrunk its space to avoid the embarrassment of empty rows. Delegates rose dutifully for the national anthem, but few sang. The applause for the warm-up speaker, Stuart Harper, president of the National Convention, was hesitant. It felt, one journalist said, like a New Orleans funeral, colourful but ultimately about saying goodbye. Into this atmosphere walked Kemi Badenoch, a leader nearly a year into her tenure but still struggling to define herself. No one clapped. Or they clapped, but they didn't stand up. Her headline message was blunt. Only Conservatives can control Britain's borders. She unveiled a new removals verse. Trump-style immigration squads using facial recognition technology to deport 150,000 illegal migrants each year. She pledged that every Conservative candidate must back withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights. She said Britain could no longer be bound by a foreign court expanding rights beyond their original intent and blocking deportations. The slogans, strong borders, national control, authentic conservatism, but this was also a defensive move. Reform UK under Nigel Farage has owned the border argument for months, and Badenoch's critics, including Nadine Dorries, now herself in Reform, accused her of arriving late to a fight Farage has been leading for decades, not the woman who said it for 5 minutes, Dorries wrote, as she jumps on the bandwagon. Even on home turf, the reception was awkward. The announcement that the UK would quit the ECHR, a red meat pledge for the Tory right, earned applause but no standing ovation. Delegates who had stood for Chris Philp, her shadow Home Secretary, remained seated for her. Afterwards, the hall thinned further, screens catching empty chairs as the members' debate began. Then, just as she tried to seize the narrative, came an embarrassment. Mark Gallagher, a businessman who gave Badenoch £2,000 in last year's leadership race, surfaced as a new recruit to Reform UK. He's a long-time friend of Farage and has finally jumped ship. Party HQ began to spin it away. He was never really a Conservative, just Brexit Party alumni, but the symbolism is brutal. A leader who promises to beat Farage on borders has just lost a border hardliner donor to him. It follows a pattern. Billionaire Nick Candy defected last year. Danny Kruger, once in Badenoch's shadow team, also left. Keith Prince, a London Assembly member, jumped ship on the eve of the conference. Reform is not just nibbling MPs, it is peeling off the money and the morale. The Tories are polling 15 to 18 points behind Reform and slipping behind Labour as well. Ben Houchen, the Tees Valley mayor, says Badenoch has let Reform steal a march. Her claim that a slow, considered policy build will pay off eventually sounds dangerously theoretical when an election may be a year away. For many MPs, patience is thin. If the May local elections go as badly as forecast, they expect a leadership challenge or a bloodless coup. Her ECHR turn is meant to reclaim the right-wing base, but the critics note that it risks Northern Ireland settlement, complicates trade deals and still offers no clear plan for where deportees would actually go, a point Badenoch dismissed as irrelevant when pressed. This is more than one leader's gamble. It's a party deciding whether it has a future at all. Nigel Farage pitches himself as the authentic voice of Brexit Britain. Badenoch claims that mantle but arrives late and sounds reactive. Her first conference as leader feels defensive, slogans about authentic conservatism rather than fresh purpose. The risk is obvious. If the party keeps bleeding donors, members and voters to Reform while polling behind Labour, it will cease to be the main party of the right. For the first time in modern history, it will cease to be His Majesty's loyal opposition. So, the conference begins not with a triumph, but with warning lights. Badenoch's line, only Conservatives can control the borders, is meant to sound strong. But when she cannot fill the hall, when people cannot lift their hands, when she cannot lift the activists to their feet and loses a donor on day one, on the rival she is trying to outflank, it sounds less like a rallying cry and more like an anxious plea. Unless something dramatic changes, Manchester 2025 will be remembered as the moment the Tory party stopped looking like the natural party of government and started to look like a brand on borrowed time.